Good morning. My name is Kevin Burt with the Department of Workforce Services Unemployment Insurance Division. Today's briefing, we will be going over the unemployment data for the weeks of October 4th through October 10th. We also have Dean Taylor Randall. He is the Economic Recovery Lead for Utah's Unified Response and the Dean of the University of Utah David Eccles School of Business. So we are grateful for his presence to be able to also discuss some economic data and trends as well. I did want to start, though, again, by going over the unemployment insurance data for the week ending October 10th. So for the week ending October 10th, we received in unemployment insurance 4,658 new claims. Last week, that was 4,574, so nearly an identical volume. It's slightly up. It's up about 1.711%. Now, we are starting to see that the unemployment claims, a new claim for unemployment, is starting to level off. Over the last 7 weeks, that number has been around 4,500 claims. So for context, is 4,500 claims high? And the answer is yes. In 2019, the average number of new claims that we took with unemployment, new claims that we took in the whole year of 2019 was around 1,100. Now, earlier on in the pandemic, in April, is when we took the most new claims, and it was 33,000 claims. So 4,500 is certainly less than that. But for some historical perspective, during the Great Recession, which was in 2009, the highest number of claims we took in a single week was around 5,000. So several months, over 6 months later, we are taking 4,500 claims, which is near record levels. So it is certainly continuing to be disruptive. Traditional claims are up 5.3%. Pandemic unemployment assistance, traditional is the state benefit. Pandemic is for those that are self-employed or gig workers. That one went down 3.4%. And then the CARES Act also introduced a 13-week extended benefit. That is also down 2.4%. We are starting to monitor seasonal work. Unemployment insurance outside of the pandemic is seasonal in nature, meaning that in Utah, where we have a strong winter season, there are jobs that have to stop because of the winter season, and those workers are furloughed and often apply for unemployment insurance. So we will always see an increase in claims as a result of the season. And so we do expect that over the next few weeks, where we will start to see that seasonal workforce starting to apply for unemployment, as well as those that are seeing disruption due to this pandemic. Continued claims is, again, a good indicator. Remember, unemployment insurance is week to week, so individuals have to apply and then every week make an attestation that they are needing the benefit or make a claim for that benefit every single week. And so that is a good indication of how many people are continuing to ask for the benefit rather than asking for it for the first time. That is down for 23 consecutive weeks. It ended at 37,571. Overall, that is down about 7.11% from the previous week. And just again, for some perspective, that was 37,571 continued claims last week. On average, last year, we took about 8,900. So it is 4 times higher than the number of continued claims that we took in 2019. Traditional claims, which is the state benefit, was down 8.3%. Pandemic was also down nearly 11%. And the extended benefit for continued claims was down a little less than 8%. So to date, unemployment insurance we've taken since March 15th, which is when we started to see an increase in claims. We've taken nearly 320,000 unemployment claims. Last year, we took 63,000 claims. So we've taken about 5 years' worth of claims over the last 7 months. And to date, or actually since March 15th, we have paid $1,552 million in unemployment benefits. For context for that, last year we paid $150 million. And this year we've paid over $1.5 billion. Now, I do need to point out that that is a substantial amount of support that has been put out by the unemployment insurance program. But keep in mind that a significant percentage of that support was actually a result of the CARES Act. In fact, of that $1.5 billion, 67% of those funds came from federal funds through the CARES Act. And if you break down even more, initially there was a $600 weekly stimulus, and then the president signed a memorandum which also introduced a 6-week lost wages assistance $300 stimulus. That $600 stimulus and that $300 stimulus account for 60% of the amount of money that has gone out over the last 7 months. Now, unfortunately, both that $600 stimulus and that $300 weekly stimulus have expired. And I do need to tell it as it is, Todd, and explain that pandemic unemployment assistance also has an expiration date. Remember, pandemic is for the self-employed or gig workers. That expires at the end of December. The 13-week extended benefit also expires at the end of December. But it's also critical to point out that unemployment insurance is time limited. The maximum number of weeks an individual can receive the state benefit is 26 weeks. And then in addition to that, because of the CARES Act, there's an additional 13 weeks. So it is up to 39 weeks. Pandemic unemployment assistance is also up to 39 weeks that an individual can stay on the benefit. It is not income-based. It is time-limited. Now, the reason why I bring these up, and I tend to bring it up repeatedly every week, last week was week 30 since this pandemic first hit Utah and started seeing massive disruptions to employment. We are on week 30, and the max number of weeks individuals can receive if they have applied early on is 39. And so there is a need to actively participate in the labor force, meaning to actively participate in job search. Everything that we have done as a department is trying to recognize the limitations of the unemployment insurance program. In August, we eliminated the job attachment based solely on the claimant self-attestation. This was not because we were not recognizing that the pandemic was continuing. It was just recognizing the limitations of the unemployment program and acknowledging that the pandemic continues. The unemployment insurance program will not last the length of this pandemic, and individuals need to be actively involved in the labor force and actively involved in job search, and we will continue to make efforts to try and encourage that. Now, the promising thing is that in Utah, we have a diverse economy. So there are opportunities where individuals can find employment and find some stability in employment before their unemployment insurance runs out. We just always need to strongly encourage individuals to do so, because while the unemployment benefit has been generous through this pandemic, now we are starting to see its limitations, specifically its limitations on how long an individual can receive it. And with that, I'll go ahead and open it up to any questions.
Go back with
Okay, so the question is, so you mentioned that you had ended the job attachment for individuals that were on unemployment insurance, that Utah was one of the few states that made that decision to do that, and was it a good decision? Individuals need to understand, in answering this question, what removing the job attachment did. The job attachment was used and has been used in the state for some time, and I actually mentioned seasonal labor. So an individual that is working in construction and has these skills in construction, and during a 2 to 3 month window during the winter, they're unable to work. The employer that has these talented employees does not want to lose those employees, and so they do a job deferral. And what that does is it makes a person eligible for unemployment, but the main thing it does is they don't have to job search. And so what it does is it provides some unemployment assistance during those winter months so that individuals can return to their former employer, and that employer doesn't have to lose these talented, specialized employees. Now, the pandemic resulted in a massive shutdown of businesses, resulting in the exact same thing, that these employers had these talented employees and did not want to lose them. And so what the state of Utah did is we actually introduced a job attached deferral based on the attestation of the claimant that, hey, I expect to return to work. And the reason why we did that is because we knew that there was a shutdown. We had hoped that the economic recovery would be quick and that individuals would be able to successfully return to the place as that business reopens and that economic activity resumes. And so what we did is we kept that, and we kept that for 6 months. But then a decision had to be made, okay, we know that unemployment can only last 26 weeks with that 13-week extended. If an individual has been unemployed for 6 months and unsuccessful at returning to their work, are they really going to be able to return to their former employer anytime soon? And I think what the pandemic has shown is that some industries have been successful and been able to navigate this and stay open and possibly even grow. But some industries absolutely are still continuing to struggle. Hotels, events, travel, all of those continue to struggle. And the issue is that the unemployment insurance is, again, not income-based, so it would not last until next year when possibly some of those industries return. So we had to make a decision about removing that job attachment, encouraging labor force participation and people to job search. It is critical to understand people did not lose eligibility because of the removal of the job attachment. The only change was a person could continue to be eligible, but they were required to job search. Again, it's not recognition that we are past this pandemic. It is simply recognition that this pandemic is going to go on longer than we assumed early on in the pandemic. It is not going to be overcome quickly. However, unemployment cannot last the length of the pandemic, so individuals need to actively look for work. And so if I was asked, was it the right decision? I would say yes, based on the limitations of unemployment. The states that are choosing not to remove that job attachment will have the same situation in Utah where people will simply exhaust their benefit and have no more unemployment insurance to help them, and they haven't been actively looking for work. The actively looking for work is critical, even if it's in a different industry than what a person has worked with historically. So now the question is, okay, so we've talked about that with the state benefit. What about the pandemic unemployment assistance claimant? Is the message the same to those individuals given that it's a new program? And the answer is yes. But remember, the pandemic unemployment assistance, just like the state benefit, is time limited. It is up to 39 weeks. The only difference is that pandemic introduced an unemployment benefit for those that were traditionally not eligible for the state benefit, such as those that were self-employed and gig workers. So provided a temporary, fully federally funded assistance to help individuals that lost employment in self-employment and are hoping to return. So the answer is, do we require people on the pandemic unemployment assistance to look for work? And the answer is yes. And should they be actively seeking, even if they're self-employment, they hope to bring that self-employment back, but have been unsuccessful in doing so across the last 30 weeks? And the answer is yes. If individuals have been on unemployment assistance, whether it be pandemic or the state benefit, since the onset, their benefit is about to expire. And it is really critical to be active participants in the labor force and actively looking for work. And if you continue to actively look for work when you file your continued claim, you will remain eligible. But there will come a time when the time-limited nature of the program will result in exhaustion. And then it's not a matter of job search, it's just the benefit is no longer available because it has been used to its maximum number of weeks. And with that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Dean Taylor.
Well, thank you, Kevin. The numbers that Kevin has just shared with you are individuals. They're individuals whose lives have been disturbed and disrupted by the pandemic. And I will say the folks at Division of Workforce Services are doing a remarkable job in trying to match individuals with jobs that are available. In total, Kevin and his team have dispersed over $1.5 billion in benefits to individuals in need. It's really a remarkable number and a remarkable task over this relatively short period of time. I want to focus us really clearly on what we are trying to do with the economy. And there are really three basic things. We're trying to instill consumer confidence in not only our workforce, but our consumers here in the state. Second, we're trying to connect people with jobs that are available. And finally, we're trying to provide retraining opportunities for those who may be displaced from work over a little longer period of time. And if I might, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about each one of those and fill you in on kind of where we are. The United States uses a Michigan index, comes out of the University of Michigan, to measure consumer confidence. That is actually not typically measured at a state level. And so what we report in terms of consumer confidence is really the national number. We have been working with the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute to develop a statewide measure, and in November I'm pleased to announce that we will be announcing for the first time a state-level consumer confidence index that will allow us to see how we compare with the rest of the nation. It is our metric, it is something that we will be able to manage to, and it will be able to give us focus on where our weak spots are in terms of how people view the state of the economy and where they are in terms of making economic decisions. For those of you that want to know why that is important, consumer confidence is the basis of our spending patterns. As businesses see spending patterns improving or expected spending patterns improving, they are willing to make investments in the labor force and make investments in their businesses. The second thing that we're doing is trying to connect individuals to jobs that are available. And a few weeks ago, we came to you to announce the new jobs board at jobs.utah.gov and a hot jobs portal. I'm pleased to say that today we have over 1,300 jobs in that hot jobs portal. There are a number of industries that are desperate for workers. In healthcare, we have over 340 jobs available. In finance and banking, over 166 spots. And if you look at advanced manufacturing, there are nearly 130 opportunities. So all combined, again, there are 1,300 hot jobs that people need, our businesses need right now. That brings the total number of jobs posted to over 33,000. And I would encourage the media to encourage those that are unemployed to go to this website. It's really a remarkable collaboration between the Division of Workforce Services and our businesses. It's unique, I believe, in the United States, a unique effort. In addition to the efforts that are going on to connect people to this job board, over the last few weeks, the Division of Workforce Services made 4,000 individual calls to people that are unemployed, getting them engaged in the workforce, engaged in their job search, and explaining to them the opportunities that are out there. I think over the coming months, you're going to see movement in the job market, and I think these efforts will help individuals in a big way. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about our opportunities for retraining. If you look at the In Utah Learn and Work program, there are a number of programs that are still open. They're available through nearly every institution of higher learning here in the state and also every technical school. Specifically, I want to draw attention to a number that are in I think, areas that are in deep need. Certified nursing assistants. We have a program open right now. We have deep needs for nurses and certified nursing assistants. If you look at our specialty manufacturing training programs, especially in advanced manufacturing, a ton of programs there that people can get engaged with. And then finally, if you look at our transportation sector, if you look at forklift operators and need for commercial driver's license, as always, that is through the roof. Finally, I want to make several comments on the new health index that was announced this week by the governor and the Department of Health. For those businesses that have already taken the stay safe stay open pledge, there is really not much change. Our basic tools in combating spread in the workforce, in the workplace, and spread overall are wearing masks and social distancing. And most businesses can continue to go on as is, even as we work through this new index, which has kind of high, moderate, and low transmission rates. In some instances, businesses that have been put in high, and especially in the high and moderate indices for the next 2 weeks, we're going to need businesses to actually insist that customers and employees all wear masks. It's going to be key in these next few weeks during this, what we're calling a circuit breaker, to try to bring down these transmission rates so that we can operate in a little more open manner in our economy. I will make a brief comment here, and that is that we notice in our economic data along various measures that as case counts go up, people begin to voluntarily take back their economic activity. They become sensitive to what's going on. They probably don't feel as safe, is what we conjecture, engaging with the economy. And so it's important that we as society bring these levels down. So again, what I'd reinforce to businesses is that we want you to take the stay safe, stay open pledge. There are practices in that pledge that will give your customers and consumers confidence to enter your businesses. Over 3,300 companies have actually taken that pledge right now. Finally, we have a great manual on best practices that's been put out by the health department. All of that can be seen at the state's website, and we'd encourage you to go there. And then finally, we do have a hotline that can be called in if you've got very specific questions about your businesses, and that number can be made available to you. We're excited that 2 weeks ago we launched a small business quarantine grant. That quarantine grant is available for individuals and particularly small businesses that need to quarantine employees. There's some payment of lost wages that are available to those businesses. The hope here is that you can use that to encourage people to get tested and be quarantined, and that workers will actually step forward and do that without feeling like they're going to have a loss of pay over that quarantine period. So with that, I want to stop and then take some questions from those of you that have them. Thank you. So the question was, there are some rural communities that are seeing a dramatic change. So they've gone from what was green, and now they find themselves in high. This is not a hypothetical. Garfield County finds itself in that circumstance right now. The message there is first one that there are other counties and other areas that have gone through this before. I think there are certain businesses, particularly if we look at restaurants, that will have to make some changes. I refer you again to the business manual. Restaurants can still maintain business and stay open. There are certainly some distancing and mask wearing protocols that they will need to adopt. But we have seen our restaurant industry be very, very creative, particularly with respect to increasing takeout businesses, expanding seating in outside areas. And I think you'll find that there's a way that you can still maintain your business as we go through that. Again, if you've got particular questions, please call our hotline and we will walk you through the issues. Well, thank you very much for being with us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.